Hello and welcome to episode 191 of the Pitcher or the Hitter, the podcast by the M-SABR Dynasty League for the M-SABR Dynasty League. I am Cam,
I'm Sahil.
and the dream of 18-2-2 is dead.
Yeah, it's the only thing that makes me losing this week feel a little more palatable. The top three teams in the league lost this week. It's insane. I did not see that coming. I don't think anybody did. We clearly didn't because we didn't pick that to happen. But Christ, what a week. And four
What a
trades
week.
too.
Four trades, yeah, busy week. I'd say hell was freezing over if it wasn't 100 degrees currently.
Yeah, God, Eric and I both losing in the same week. When's the last time that happened?
Good question. I
Has
can
to,
look that up quickly.
yeah,
Um,
no, go for it.
it's, yeah, I mean, I'm sure been a
I'm sure it happens like once a year, but like you're once last year, or like
week eight
a couple.
last year. Eric lost to EBO and you lost to me.
Okay, so those are like that was like conceivable losses though, or like it felt conceivable. Like me losing to Connor, and Eric losing to Anthony just didn't seem real. But I think there's some structural problems with the teams I'd like to address when we get there. But um, before we do that, there are a few trades this week. Finally, we're seeing some blockbusters. I don't want to take this one in order, Cam, because I actually I want to do this a little differently. I want to start with the big trade here, and the Logan Gilbert trade. Um, Alex traded Logan Gilbert to EBO
And Emilio Pagan.
and Emilio Pagan. I'm sorry, the Reds closer. He suddenly matters, even though he gives up way too many home runs. How has he been other than that? I know he's supposed
He's
to be pretty home.
been good so far. I don't expect it to last because of the home runs, but he has been good so far.
Interesting. Okay, I wouldn't have guessed that. But anyways, that's all we ever need to say about Emilio Pagan. EBO traded Marcelo Meyer, Rhett Lauder, Adrian Del Castillo, and Carson Whisenhunt to Alex for Logan Gilbert and Emilio Pagan. Cam, your thoughts first.
So it's a big collection of names for one of the best pitchers in the league. We've seen trades like this before. Marcelo Meyer is one of the top prospects in baseball. I feel like EBO it's an underwhelming return on the surface, but I feel like EBO was able to package a lot of guys that Alex values higher than the rest of the league does. And maybe Alex is just like a hype man. He's higher on everybody in the league than everyone else is, and that's why he does these deals. But these are guys that he has like expressed liking. Like he likes Adrian. He seems to be convinced that Adrian Del Castillo is a top 30 prospect in the league. He's a big fan of Carson Whisenhunt too. I think these are fine guys. Adrian Del is hitting really well. Carson Whisenhunt's a decent pitcher. I think he's was a free agent somewhat recently. I'm not sure. But and yeah, Marcelo Meyer and Rhett Lauder are good. Rhett Lauder will be when he comes back, he'll be a top prospect in the league. Chase Burns will have made his major league debut by the time you're hearing this, most likely, so that is fun. Um, but yeah, I like Rhett Lauder a lot, but yeah, it's kind of a collection of names that it could work out for Alex if Logan Gilbert goes the way of, say, Spencer Strider, but um, but it's a little underwhelming.
I, I'd say the same. So a couple of tidbits here. Um, Alex, I don't know how long EVO and Alex were talking about this trade, but this came public like very quickly right before the trade was about to happen. That Alex said, "Hey, Logan Gilbert's about to be on the move." I know EVO, so they initially had talks for Marcelo Meyer with Anthony centered around Freddie Peralta. And then it looks like they were
Interesting.
able to get a little better pitcher in Gilbert, and they went for that. But I know Alex seemed to have a lot of momentum towards this deal. I know he really likes Tatis, so admittedly, I was like, hey, how about Tatis? Not that I was really expecting to trade him to Tatis, but just maybe if I could like slow things down enough to like see if, I don't know, a better offer could come in for him, or maybe he and I could figure something out, even if it like not for Tatis, but he told me straight up, he's like, I value that package more than Tatis. So I think it tells you how sold he is on these prospects. I do agree with you. So I think Marcelo Meyer is a really good frontliner piece, but I think for somebody like Logan Gilbert, who I think is a top 5 to 10 dynasty pitcher, um, I think he needed a second piece. He needed something more than what he got. Um, I think the other three prospects are fine, but I think he needed, he just needed a second frontliner, and I think he could have just been justified in asking for that. And I think EBO might have done that. I know EBO is 2 lottery first round picks this year. And I wonder if Alex asked for one of them. I mean, EBO has Alex's first round pick. I'm sure Alex would love that pick back.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
that's certainly what I would have asked for. But it seems like Alex is really sold on this package. And hey, I mean, he's collected a nice collection of young players now in that infield. I mean, he's got Josh Naylor and Jackson Holliday, Christian Campbell, Marcelo Meyer, Junior Caminero, Anthony Volpe. I'm sure I'm forgetting a couple other big names there. So, I mean, if these guys pop off, especially if um, Meyer pops off like, he hopes, we're not really thinking about this trade as a bad deal. Um, one other thing I will say is that Logan Gilbert did just come off an IL stint for an elbow injury. I believe it was a flexor strain. And while he did strike out 10 in his first start back, you never know what's going to happen. So, you alluded to Spencer Strider. I mean, there's a real downside. Who's to say he's not going to make 2 or 3 starts and then the arm falls apart. Um, it wouldn't totally surprise me. So, um, yeah, there's definitely some elevator risk with trading for a pitcher there.
Yeah, and you never really know with these pitchers. You're exactly right. Sandy Alcantara, um, has been awful this year. So like after
Strider's
being
been
back,
uneven coming back this year. I mean, I know Lucas Giolito struggled a bit before he came back, but he's been pretty uneven this year. When Robbie Ray came back last year, he was uneven. I mean, those were just names I could think of off the top of my head. I'm sure there's plenty more, but it could take a while. And then, all of a sudden, and then who's to say they ever get it back? I mean, look at Walker Buehler. He had TJ. He looks cooked. That trade
hmm
rid of him looks really good, by the way.
Yeah, I love me some Angel now.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll see.
We'll
Um,
see. I think Alex is really just playing the quantity game with his starters, or with his pieces, his prospects. Like he's rostering, like on his major league team plus minor league team, he's rostering like 30 prospect eligible guys, something insane like that. So he's just kind of playing the quantity game, and he's been doing that for a couple of years now. And we thought this would be the year he'd turn a corner. It hasn't happened yet, but we'll we'll see. Some of these guys are going to break through, I'm sure.
no, and while I don't think some of these guys are quite broken through yet, like I see the vision, right? Like he has Christian Campbell, right? Awesome prospect. He struggled, but that's okay because next year, he'll have more experience in the same way Jackson Holiday struggled last year. Now he looks like an asset for him. Jackson Churio established himself last year. Now he's kind of going through a little bit of a sophomore slump, but he's established himself as a piece. So I see the vision here. Um, I think the key is, can Alex keep the appropriate guys to actually execute the vision? I'm not
That's true, because he's going to have a roster crunch at some point.
right. So let's hope he makes the right decisions. But it is certainly a very talented roster. Side note, did you start Ben Brown today?
Um, I'm not sure. Yes, I did. Crap.
Oh no. Oof.
God,
Two games returned so
this has
far.
been going terribly since I traded for him.
Yeah, welcome to the club. If it makes you feel better, I started Bailey over and he's been pretty awful. This one's not looking great. He went through 6 innings, but he gave up 7 earned. Um, it's just how we go, just how it goes. Um,
This is how it goes. You might be welcoming me to the losing to Connor club.
yeah.
But we got some more trades in a game to get through before we get into that.
Yeah. Let's get to my trades here. I wanna. I think my pitcher trades kind of offer a nice transition into my matchup. So let's start with the Drake Baldwin trade, even though that was the last trade of the week. Um, I traded Drake Baldwin to Anthony for his 2027 second round pick, which conveyed to Connor after that second round pick trade I made with him to get what's his face, the 23rd overall pick in this year's draft, and I took Griffin Burkholder with that pick.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I
So that's yeah.
go ahead.
I
I
don't know. You
know
wanted
that's
a
minor comment.
third. I'm not gonna complain too much, but like you wanted a third, you probably weren't gonna get a third, and then suddenly you got a second. Like how did you get a second?
I kind of Anthony chatted me at exactly 11:30 a.m. I still remember the time and the place, and he was like, "Would you give me your 20 or Drake Baldwin for my 2027 second?" I think this might be the first time ever that Anthony has offered me a trade first and not the other way around. And I was excited. I was like, "Yeah, I'll do it." Um, Ironically, Adley got hurt like literally the next day, and I think I would have called a Baldwin to replace him. But um, Baldwin's not playing every day. That was kind of hard for me while competing, especially as a bench bat already, kind of a roster crunch. But I love, love, love this for Anthony, and here's why. He has Sean Murphy. Him and Baldwin are splitting time behind the plate, but they're both hitting pretty well. I threw the numbers in the chat. They're not as accurate anymore because it's been a few days, but essentially it boils down to the two of them together are a top five catcher. And I think that Anthony's just built a top five catcher in the aggregate. Um, so
Yeah, but it's two roster spots and like you're guaranteed to be benching one of them every day. It's tough. I see the vision, but like I've never it's like in fantasy football when you stack quarterback wide receiver for the same team. It's always felt and it's different than that in a lot of ways, but it's felt very boomer bust.
well, I think at the price he gave up though, it's not like he gave up a ton to do that. If he ends up
And
cutting,
on a day that the Braves aren't playing, now he's got two catchers on his bench that aren't. So there's a vision there, but it's a tough sell.
but most catchers don't play every day as is, right? It's very hard to find someone who's going to do that. So you already have a catcher sitting out once or twice a week. So this way you're getting catchers who are going to play 6 days a week. And I get it, you're still burning an extra roster spot, but you're basically guaranteeing a catcher 6 days a week. That's hard to do. How many catchers are playing 6 days a week consistently?
I mean, not many, but the days where you got two catchers filling up bench spots is tough.
Yeah, I get I get the argument, but and I don't know. I get it. I do think too, if you're Anthony, right? I think either the Braves are going to trade one of them in the offseason. They were already rumored to have offered Sean Murphy to the Red Sox for in a Devers deal. Um, or, Marcell Ozuna leaves in the offseason and maybe both of them will get an opportunity to play more with one of them DHing. It would not surprise me if Anthony is able to trade away one of them in the offseason to a team who needs a catcher and basically recoup that value back. So,
I mean, maybe that's it's fair. They are both hitting well. I don't have a problem with Drake Baldwin if he was playing every day, that's for sure. But it's tough.
no, I get that, and it's not for everybody. Some teams like that approach, some teams don't. Would you get two roster spots to get 6 to 7 days of production, or one roster spot for 4 to 5 days, and maybe that one catcher again 4 to 5 days is just not nearly as good as the two combined, giving you 6 days. I mean, I don't know what the math looks like on that, but Anthony deems it to be worth it, and I I think it makes sense.
I guess we'll have to see.
Breaking
What's the next
news!
trade we want to talk about?
Breaking
Oh,
news!
breaking news.
Cam completed the Astros color storm. Congratulations.
Oh my God. I did. Yeah, I got Brian Abreu.
Nice. But yeah, let's get to these next two trades. I traded with Anthony again. This was the earlier trade between me and Anthony. I traded him Geraldo Perdomo and Twins prospect Charlie Soto for Sonny Gray. Um, I'll let you go first again. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I haven't really looked into this trade. Charlie Soto's a 19-year-old pitcher. He could be anything.
I think he's
He,
actually out for the year, is what I read too. He's
well,
right now.
well, there you go. He's looked good in 13 high A innings this year. He looked okay, not great in a larger number of low A innings last year. Man, he could be good. Sonny Gray is is good. He's been bouncing back and forth a lot between the same few teams. I can't really have the energy to be worked up about this trade one way or the other, I suppose.
Yeah, so I told you as soon as I made the trade that that I like had a song that I think pretty much sums this up. Um and that song that I thought should be the song that we do in a podcast this week. And it is Kesha's song Your Love Is My Drug because I cannot seem to quit Sonny Gray. And every time I quit him because I'm like I'm done with him, I don't need him, I'm gonna move on. He's old, whatever. I just keep coming back to him. I cannot resist this man. He just, I don't get it, but uh, he just keeps finding a way back on my team, and he's had a pretty damn good year. I'm gonna pull up the numbers here quickly. He has now a 3.72 ERA, but it's a 3.19 FIP, 3.11 xFIP. It's a 9.57 K per nine, a 181 walk per nine, and 15 starts, 84 and two-thirds innings. So he's almost averaging 6 innings a start even. He's just kind of consistently rolling. And, I in a rotation that's really just been a mess beyond my top three. Um, he's kind of that stabilizing fourth arm right now. I'm really happy to have him.
I mean, yeah, you're never gonna catch me talking down on Sonny Gray. I enjoy him quite a bit, and yeah, he's 35 now, so he's not terribly old. But I mean, he's you're probably gonna trade him again in the offseason for something better than Charlie Soto.
Well, you completely forgot about Geraldo Perdomo. Um,
Okay, that's true. Perdomo, that's certainly fair. Perdomo's having a really solid season. And it's and he's slumping a bit, but the walks are still more than the strikeouts. The BABIP is actually down from last year, which was surprising. And he's a decent hitter. He's already got a career high in RBI. Um, I have rostered Geraldo Perdomo in the past. I've liked him, and he's kind of breaking out this year. So yeah, that's a decent get for Anthony.
yeah,
He's 25 also.
I really like Perdomo. I do think it's a little bit of a side. Now, I do think he has made a little bit of a skills jump, but the little bit of a skills jump I don't think is enough for me to think like he's going to be a star. I think he'd be a really solid like util bat or bench bat. Um, and he slowed down a bit on the homer and steals pace. In April, he had 4 homers and 7 steals. That dropped to 2 and 4 in May, and it's 1 homer and zero or 2 homers and 0 steals so far in June. Um, so, like, I think he's going to be very solid. I think this is a nice get for Anthony. And even despite the slowdown, it's still been a really nice season for Geraldo Perdomo. But like, I did have Mookie Betts and Trey Turner. I know they're a little bit on the older side now. They're 32, but I was comfortable enough with the shortstop depth to kind of gamble and trading away Perdomo. Um, I just like. I don't think he's going to hit as well as he did to start the year, but I still think he'll be solid the rest of the way.
Yeah.
I will one last tidbit. Initially, Anthony wanted Jared Jones and Charlie Soto for Sonny Gray, and then we settled on Perdomo. I'll be
Yeah,
curious.
that's a big big work down from Jared Jones.
Yeah, I'm still a believer in his stuff if he gets healthy, but I mean, ugh, it's a mess. I was so excited for him in the spring. I just like. I've seen it. I've seen what it can be. He's developing extra pitches. I just couldn't give him up. Even though he's not going to help me at all to series out for the year, and Perdomo will. But I would rather have gambled on the sell high there on Perdomo than selling low on Jones. But all right, one more trade. Merrill Kelly, I got from Conor for AJ Ewing. Um, any thoughts here?
I mean, AJ Ewing, how long ago did you pick up AJ Ewing?
Maybe like a month ago. I don't know. Sometime during this season for sure.
Yeah, you picked up AJ Ewing a month ago, and you got a guy who's got a 3.39 ERA. Granted, Merrill Kelly's 36, but he's been like really consistent the last few years. It's
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I had when me and Eric did our prospects to watch segment, AJ Ewing was a guy I picked as a guy that no one owned but was having a good season, and now you own him and have traded him. So like, yeah.
Yeah, so like, yeah, he's older, right? But he's still productive. He's a if you t he was had a bad first start. It was against the Cubs. No shame in pitching bad against the Cubs. They've been insane. Ooh, somebody hit a homer for me. Who was it? But I'll figure it out in a minute. But since that first start, it's a 3.49 ERA, 3.21 FIP, 3.08 xFIP. It's got a 9.44 K per nine, 2.16 walk per nine, 103 homer nine, 15 games started, 87 and two-thirds innings. So even closer to that 6 innings per start arc. And I love it. Like if he was like 5 years younger, everybody'd be talking about him. But because he's 37, I haven't heard a peep about him this year. But he's been awesome. And again, uh, I'm comparing this to the price of Gilbert. I don't think Gray or Kelly are anywhere are as good as Gilbert. They certainly don't have the upside, but they're both pitching pretty damn well this year. Maybe about as well as Logan Gilbert in a lot of regards, and I got them for like 20% of the price. You know, I've told you off air a bunch. I'm done paying for pitching. And if I can get these two at this price, like as opposed to paying for a guy who might blow out his arm the next week, and I gave up a whole bunch, like great.
Yeah, it would not surprise me if Merrill Kelly had a better. It would a little bit surprise me, but not like drastically surprise me if Merrill Kelly had a better rest of the season than Logan Gilbert did.
No, it definitely wouldn't. Kelly, he slumped a little last year, but has basically been very solid otherwise throughout his career. Um,
Mhm.
like I'm very happy for him. But um, it's I think it's a nice little segue into my matchup against Conor. Uh, I lost 8-4. Uh, it was not a great week for me, but I want to focus on Conor here first. Conor had an awesome week. He hit, 20 homers, 19 doubles, 50 ribbies, a 344 OBP. He had 6 holds, a 3.29 ERA, 113 WHIP, 44 runs. Like, look, I don't care who the team is. If your opponent is putting up those numbers, there's a pretty damn good chance you're going to lose that week. Those are just awesome numbers, and as it turns out, I lost. Uh, no shame. For me, it happens. I have to tip my cap to him. Uh, Connor strangely has my number in like some of the biggest matchups. I'm still scarred by the 2021 semis matchup, but um, I I got done in by 2 players. Uh, Byron Buxton, who had 6 home runs on the week and a stolen base, and a double, 4 walks. He had a 481 OBP. And what's crazy is that he's not even the matchup MVP, and I'm declaring the matchup MVP on your behalf because it's got to be Cal Raleigh.
Oh yeah, that's who I was gonna pick. Yeah.
12 RBIs, 2 steals, a 481 OBP, 10 runs. Cal Raleigh now on the season has more than 30 home runs and he's got 10 steals. As a catcher, he is the first switch hitter in MLB history to have 30 home runs before the All-Star break. I mean, that's just insane. And so Connor had 20 home runs this week. And 11 of them were just Cal Raleigh and Byron Buxton just killing it. They had 18 RBIs. They had 17 of his runs. Uh, they had 3 of his steals. Sometimes you just have to like tip your cap and be like, damn, just a good week. This is why we play the games. Good for Connor. I just, good week. And I even took Merrill Kelly from him. Like this would have, I think we would have tied quality starts if I didn't take Kelly and, and start it. Yeah, it was a great week for Connor. As for my team, it was a horrendous pitching week from a quality perspective. I did put up 96 strikeouts just out of sheer quantity. It is a little bit of a it's not like everybody pitched bad, but Zach Eflin had about as bad of a week as you can get. He had 8 innings. He gave up 13 earned against the Rays and Tampa and then the Yankees. He's been pretty awesome all year, other than one blowout before this. I'm not really worried about that. But like, and Jeremiah Estrada gave up 5 earned without getting it out against the Dodgers. Zach Gallen was awful. Not a great start by Bailey Ober. And then I streamed 4 earned runs from Andrew Kittredge. So like it just besides that, everybody's pretty damn good, but those guys just really did my ERA in. And then offensively, I just could never really get it going all week. I do want to give a quick shout out though to Christian Yelich, who had an 8 RBI game. Um, I think it was on Friday, and he became the first hitter in MLB history to have 8 RBIs and not score a run.
That's insane. That sounds almost impossible.
He had 2 bases clearing doubles, uh,
Yeah.
and did not come around on either of them. It's just wild.
Yeah. No, and I mean it has to come with not hitting a homer, which is yeah, tough to do with yeah, tough to hit 8 RBIs without a homer, but yeah, crazy stuff. I do want to say, and yeah, amazing hitting week by Connor, the two guys you mentioned. I don't really need to dive into it too much farther. Um, I think one of the risks of going after older pitchers is that's been a little bit my bread and butter, paying less for these older guys. And the problem with that is you could end up if you're not really on top of like flipping them for value, then you end up having like a bunch of old guys in your rotation like I do, and then you're in trouble.
Yes and no. Okay, so while I do agree, I think it's more you need to kind of build that core and then you got to supplement around them. Now I am aware that my team is the issue this year where all my good pitchers are over 30. And it just happens to be that all my younger pitchers are just struggling. But yes, that is an inherent problem with the strategy. And it's not a sustainable one. I think maybe the better way to say it rather than just saying older pitchers is like buying low on a pitcher and then selling high on a pitcher, I think is the best way to do it. It's like Dylan Cease last year, I think is a great example, right? I bought him coming off that awful season with the White Sox. He got traded to the Padres. I gave up basically nothing to go get him. And then I traded him to you and a deal to get Junior Caminero, which had to be Wyatt Langford at the end of the year, right? And I get that he's been a bit unlucky, but like Dylan Cease has not been as good this year, and he's been pretty volatile throughout his career. And I don't think you would get the same price for him today as you would on the trade market. So I think that's kind of more of what the strategy is, like and I've bought younger pitchers low. I bought uh Gavin Williams last year at what felt like a pretty low price at the time of MJ Melendez and a random Dodger prospect I just picked up who unfortunately has turned out pretty good, but um it's I think it's more of the way to do it as opposed to an older pitcher.
That's fair, and it's a tricky thing to do. And yeah, your rotation is looking kind of old now. We'll see how it looks in 2 years, how if you've supplemented it with younger guys, that all remains to be seen.
Yeah, I mean, I still have Gavin Williams. He's young. I think Jared Jones, he can come back. I still think, I can go out and acquire some younger pitchers. I mean, you know me, that this team looks vastly different all the time. Um, I will say too, I think a year or year and a half ish ago, I looked at my offense and I was like, man, this offense is getting old quickly. I had Altuve, I had Marcus Semien, who I acquired even though he was older to make a playoff push. Trying to think of some of the other older names I had. I can't think off the top of my head that I've traded away recently, but um, I made a conscious decision to go and get younger. Castellanos was another one of them. And look at what I did last off season. I mean, I got rid of Altuve, I got rid of Semien. And the older guys I have right now, I mean, are a lot of them are not really core guys. I have Yelich, right? But he's like my fifth or sixth best outfielder now. He's not like my top outfielder. So I think I'm capable of doing it. You know me. I make
Yeah,
my trades.
you sure make your trades. You made three of them this week. Anything else on your matchup before we move on?
Um, there's one more thing I wanted to say, and I'm trying to remember if I can think of it. Uh, no, it might come to me, but not not about this matchup, but we were talking about Bailey Ober, so I think this is an appropriate time to bring it up. He pitched 7 innings today. Want to guess how many earned runs he gave up?
Seven. No, they six.
No, no, you're right, 7. How many strikeouts do you think he had?
Seven.
Yep. What the fuck is that pitching line, man?
Seven.
Yes. Yes. Good job, Cam.
Thank you. That's the
Uh,
only word I know.
yes, clearly. But all right. Let's talk about Eric's matchup next.
Let's talk about Eric's matchup next. He was losing most of the week, but it still felt like he was in control, that he'd, get his strikeouts and his quality starts and his ERA and whip, but that just kind of didn't happen. And Anthony had an extra strikeout and was able to pull off the 7-5 win.
I was shocked. It looked like when I looked at Eric's score going into Sunday and all the starters he had, I was like, yeah, this isn't going to be an issue. He's going to come back. And the only pitcher that Anthony streamed was Kyle Hendricks. And when I saw that, I was like, yeah, he's fucking toast. But that did not end up being the case. He won 7-5. Um, and I want to do a little bit of a heat check on Eric here in a minute because I think there's a little bit of cause for concern. We talked about my rotation being a concern. I think his is a concern too. But Anthony's team, I mean, 44 ribbies, 8 steals were solid, but it wasn't really a standout offensive week. And then pitching wise, maybe 5 quality starts and 5 holds were great. But or sorry, I'm looking at Eric's. Um, uh, Anthony had 11 homers, 38 ribbies, 15 doubles, like 5 steals, 329 OBP. That's something special. But on the pitching side, 5 saves is good, a 349 ERA, a 120 25 whip, all solid enough. He had 72 Ks, as you alluded to, one more than Erik. And he did just enough. It wasn't the sexiest week, but he was able to pull it off against Erik, who if five quality starts, five holds are nice. I guess the eight steals is nice, but it wasn't really a sexy week for him either. And here's a fun fact, actually. I would have beaten Erik this week, but I lost to Conor. How many times in recent memory did you say that? Like, just a weird week for Erik.
That is bizarre. I mean, you talk about heat checking Eric. Let's heat check Anthony. Anthony's won 4 out of 6. He's won 3 out of 4. And the only two losses are a tight one to me and an even tighter one to EBO. Like
Yeah.
he started out 0-5-2, but he very easily could have been 6-0 since then. And he's beaten some good teams. Like he's beaten Jake during that stretch. He's or no, sorry, the 5-6-1 loss was to Ruthvik. He beat EBO. Um, he's there's that sixth seed is really up for grabs, especially with Yuki on a losing streak.
Yeah, so Anthony now has wins over EBO and Erik this year. He has another tie against EBO. I mean he's been solid recently. I know it was a rough start. I think the one thing we've talked about with him is that his offense isn't as strong, and he went out and got a couple bats this week, talented young bats, and Geraldo Perdomo and Drake Baldwin. Maybe they're not world beaters, but they certainly help. And if he can, maybe make a move for another bat, I think this could be an interesting team. I don't think he's out of it by any stretch. I haven't looked at his schedule. I think we did that a couple weeks ago, but
He's got Andrew this week, which is a very pivotal one for both teams. That could be like a low-key
then he
matchup of
gets
the week.
me, and then he gets you.
So it gets
So that's
tricky there, but he's after that it gets a lot easier.
I will say the flip side of that too is he does get a lot of matchups against teams that are competing with him for that wild card spot. He still play or the sixth seed. He plays Yuki. He plays Jake. Right. He plays you, which I know you've kind of separated yourself a little bit, but in theory, maybe you like slump and be kind of in the race for one of those last seeds. Andrew's certainly in that race, so he has a lot of opportunity to make up some ground.
Mhm. No, he definitely
Yeah.
does. And I mean, this would not have been possible really if he hadn't beaten Eric this week.
Yeah, huge for him. But speaking of Erik, I do want to talk about him, and I think me and Erik both had tough losses this week, and I think that they exposed some holes that we have starting pitching wise. I went out and acquired a couple pitchers to get some depth. Um, I think Erik might need to do the same. I know he picked up Will Warren and Grant Holmes off of free agency, but let's just look at his pitcher IL right now. And as a matter of fact, he has so many players in his IL that he has three of them sitting on it. Holy shit, he's got three IL players sitting on his bench.
That's
Um,
nuts.
yeah, so Chris Sale just went on the IL with a rib injury, and it looks like it's going to be a long-term one. Ellie just hit a home run.
Ooh,
Um, Zebby Matthews is on the IL. Cole Reagans is on the IL. That looks like a longer-term injury. Luis Heels on the IL, longer-term injury. Michael King is going to be out at least through the All-Star break. Corbin Burns is out for the rest of this year and most, if not all, of next year. Hunter Green looks like he's going to be down for a bit. Tyler Glasnow just started a rehab assignment, and I mean, we know how fragile he is. I mean, his healthy pitchers right now are like Spencer Schwellenbach, he's great. George Kirby, who should be great, but he has a 6.16 ERA and a 140 whip. He started this season hurt. He just came back on May 22nd. So if you want to talk about these like Mariners starting pitchers going back to Gilbert, who we thought were unstoppable, maybe not. He's got Grant Holmes, who's been decent, but he just walked five in his last outing. DeGrom, right? He gets hurt pretty easily. Jack Flaherty, who I didn't realize was a 4.83 ERA this year, he's given him 15 earned runs in his last 7 innings, and he picked up Landon Rupp, who you know very well. So it's not a
I'm a
deep
Landon Roop
rotation.
enjoyer.
Yeah, but
But
like it's
like
not a
he's not, I thought he could be a long-term guy and he would still be on my team if I didn't need to stream, but like that's the thing. That's the
there.
Suarez line for you.
there are two starting pitchers on Eric's team I trust right now, and that's DeGrom and that's Schwallenbach. I can't say the same about anybody else who's healthy.
Right. And I mean
And even those
that's
guys who
fair.
aren't healthy, they come back. What do they look like? Because if those guys are healthy, Eric probably wins last week, or like a couple of those guys, right? Because he certainly wins Ks, and then I'm sure he flips the ERA and WHIP, which are really close. Because he's not streaming guys; he's starting as like real top end starters.
I mean, yeah, that's fair, and it's tough. He had a lot of luck with his pitchers last year, and this year not so much. And we'll see. He's still, near the top of the standings, so it's not killing him too much. But we'll see kind of what sort of how this affects him the rest of the year.
Yeah, that's what we said. He had like the 100th percentile outcome last year, and it's all coming crashing down. As a quick aside, like 2 or 3 years ago, we were talking about how old Eric's rotation was, right? And then he went out, he got Cole Reagans, and he's gotten Schwellenbach, and he got Michael King, right? All these young guys. And now these guys are all hurt again, and we're having questions about it. Trying to figure out starting pitching, it just is such a shit show.
It's fool's errand.
Yeah, it's old, young, I don't care. It's get good guys who are healthy while you can and just pray that they're gonna stay healthy and not get in trouble like some of the guys I've traded for have done.
Oh, that's
Looking at Julio Urias, remember him?
yeah, that's the thing you got to worry about too. Eric's had his share of guys who uh, he's had to cut because they've got in trouble.
Yeah. So and look, I'm not saying I'm like super worried about my team or Eric's team, right? But this is something that can make a difference, especially when you look at a team like EBO, who, after acquiring Gilbert, now has Gilbert, and they have Yamamoto, and they have Tariq Skubal, and Imanaga just got healthy, or he's coming back this week. I know Pablo Lopez is on the IL, and that's a pretty damn good top four. Ranger Suarez is a 2.20 ERA this year, like he's in that rotation. So, you know, uh, it, it, just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely fair. Have I
Uh,
named a, I don't believe I've named a matchup MVP. I'm giving it to Jazz Chisholm though, because he hit
yeah,
three doubles and a 452 OBP.
Yeah, great starter bat for Anthony to build around. He needs to keep building that offense if he wants to get back, and I think he has the pieces to do so. If you want to talk about someone who can't afford to trade more pitching, it's Anthony.
That is true.
Yeah, he could trade Freddie Peralta and not blink an eye.
Mhm. For sure. Let's move on. What matchup did we want to get into here next?
Why don't we talk about UV Ruthvik because that was the other top three team that lost.
Yeah,
Um,
all three of the top three teams lost. Yeah, you kind of laughed at me when I said it's a frustrating viewing experience, but like to every week, like this week I was up like 9 to 2 to 1 for most of the week. Then Ruthvik brought it down to 6-5-1. Then I brought it back up to 9 to 3. Then I thought it was over. I thought everything was done. And then you chat me at like 7:50 and you're like, oh, it's 6-5-1 and Ruthvik has a path to victory. And I was like, what? Like 7:50 on Sunday. And it didn't come to pass. And I ended up flipping two categories and it being a comfortable 8-3-1. But like that's a tough viewing experience, and I had a hell of a week. I was able to pull it off. I feel a lot better about my team right now based on just the fact that I was able to beat a top team like this, to have an easier part of my schedule supposedly coming up, and to drive in 63 runs, 22 homers, 21 doubles, win on base percentage. Like my pitching is a problem. I I don't really know how to address it because you can't just trade for pitching. That's not an easy thing to do. Um, but I feel happy about this week despite it being hard to watch at times.
Yeah, if you want to play the whole guess how pitchers are going to go game, I think Shane McClanahan is like exhibit A for that. Young pitcher looked like he's going to be a stud, and now I think you legitimately have to question what his career is going to look like.
Yeah,
Which
no,
is,
I
yeah.
I like literally when I heard the news of his injury, I was listening to the game on the radio actually, and I literally fell to my knees at a gas pump when it like it
Yeah.
when I heard because like I was listening to the game, I turned off the game to pump gas, and then you texted me that he was hurt.
Yeah, and I mean it was bad. This wasn't one of those ooh like, he just like I don't know, minor things. I mean, we all knew when it happened. It wasn't good. Um but yeah, look, your offense is been killing it. That Mets game on Saturday was insane. You hit back to back home runs. Your Mets guys are rolling. Juan Soto's rolling. That's just fun. I'm a little salty to hit 7 home runs in that game, but Pete Alonso didn't hit one, but whatever. Um, but I don't even think your pitching's that bad. I think you have a couple of like obviously Zach Wheeler's great and Framber's great and like Cease I think is going to be better. Like Mitch Keller
I
is
think
something
what it
up there. Seth
is,
Lugo.
I think what it is I'm streaming badly, and if I had like one extra guy, I could pick my matchups a little bit better and avoid the streaming and in the ERA would look substantially better.
No, and that's why like I think what people don't realize about somebody's pitching moves is it's not just about putting that guy in your rotation, it's about who you're replacing. Like, I got Gallon and Kelly, or not Gallon and Kelly, I got Kelly and Gray. Now I don't have to necessarily start Zach Gallen every week. I think you could acquire a cheap starter and all of a sudden you're not streaming, but that cheap starter is better than anybody you would stream. Like it'd be awesome for you.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really underrated part of it. I agree. Um, It's and like I've been streaming bullpen badly too. Like I've had even on Sunday, like I streamed a Jared Koenig hold, but he gave up a run in 2/3 of an inning while getting that hold.
Yeah.
So it's that hurts. That cost me ERA right there, even though it got me tied in holds, the tie that Ruthvik later broke.
Yeah, I do think there are some weeks where you just kind of have to recognize your ERA is fucked and you just got to go for quantity. But that was this week for you.
It was, and I was able to, I think early on, and that's why I streamed Nick Martinez early in the week, because like he's a guy that pitcher list says has a great matchup. I believe them. I'm gonna ride him on like a Wednesday. It might have been a Tuesday or
Yeah, it
Wednesday.
was it was it was Wednesday because I had picked him up to start him and then realized I'd be over to start limit. So I caught him and then you picked him up right after that. So you saved me from an even worse ERA this week.
Yeah, and I the reason I did that though is because Ruthvik's a big quantity guy for starting pitching. I wanted to kind of get a big lead early there. And in that case it worked. And like I got 4 strikeouts out of the deal. That could have been worse.
Yeah.
Those were 4 strikeouts that helped me tremendously. But yeah, it would have been nice to not have that ERA blow up.
Right. It's still, look, I think every team is flawed at this point in the season. I think you'll see teams that happen to go on like hot streaks, uh, and they look pretty good, and it might paper over some of their holes, but you can't do it for too long. I think a couple weeks ago when I was coming off that Ruthvik win, I was like, I'm enjoying this for now because I know it's all going to fall apart at some point. But I think, I'd rather see those flaws right now so that I can go and address them and come back stronger for it. I'd rather the pitching suck in the first half and them be really good in the second half of the year. And it takes time to find those mix of guys because you don't know how guys are going to do to start a season or who's going to be healthy and who's not. So
Hmm.
you'll get there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, completely fair. Awesome week for my guys, though. Yandy Diaz, um, you know, I've I feel like I've been rewarded for my patience in my lineup this year. Max Muncy off to a dreadful start, and he's gonna be my matchup MVP this week. Um, 10 RBI, 6 runs, 440 on base. He also stole a base. I can't remember the last time Max Muncy stole a base. Um, so yeah, really rewarded. There was one morning where I woke up and was like, do I cut Wilmer Flores or do I cut Max Muncy? I need to cut one of them. And I almost cut Max Muncy, but I cut Wilmer Flores instead, and that was the move that saved my season. Um, and not that Wilmer Flores has been bad or anything, but Max Muncy has just Max Muncy like got glasses like 2 days later and has been hitting really well ever since. Um, and I feel like I've been rewarded for my patience with Zach Neto. I was like, do I trade him or not? And he's been good. He had a rough week, but Zach Neto's been good. And Alec Boehm had another good week. He's been super hot since like the middle to end of April. And Yandy Diaz he's been rough. I've been thinking about cutting him at times, but this week he had a 485 on base percentage and he hit 2 home runs. So you know, and I've been too patient with my guys before, but the patience has paid off in my lineup this year.
I still remember where I was in Spain when I told you don't trade Zach Neto to Jake. Uh, and I think about that a lot.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I'm glad you told me not to
you're
trade him to
welcome.
Jake.
You're welcome. That's my birthday gift to you. I don't know when your birthday is, but I should know
It's
this.
in like a week and a half actually.
Oh fuck.
Yeah.
Why didn't I know that? Oh, happy early birthday.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's been a good hitting season for you to pitching. I think you'll get another guy, but I certainly think your pitching staff of some of these playoff teams is certainly, I think, in relatively better shape right now. Um, I would argue at least. You might not agree, but I would argue that.
We'll see. It needs tweaks more than an overhaul, I think.
I think it's very fair. I think you hit the nail on the head there. But anything else with your matchup, or do we? Oh,
We
one other
haven't
thing I want.
talked about Ruthvik, so let's talk about him. He had a pretty good week. He kept me honest on the hitting side. I was kind of worried, or not worried. I was thinking like, okay, he's gonna win all the pitching categories, and I'm gonna win all the hitting categories, and I'm gonna have to try and win holds or saves or something. But he had the best hitting week I've seen from him in a long time. His OBP was like above 390 for a lot of the week. I had a I mean, he scored 52 runs. He hit 17 homers. This is the best his hitting has looked all season.
Yeah, it's helped that Matt McLean's heated up. Jeremy Pena's been having an insanely good year that I've not really realized until right now. Julio Rodriguez has been heating up a bit. Like the pieces are starting to come together a little bit. Do I still think this is a particularly strong offense? No. Does it need some help? Yeah, but I mean, I think he has enough to make the playoffs and maybe make some noise. So.
Yeah, no, certainly.
It was a good. I think we kind of discounted him, and I even came out and said this week, kind of as a joke, but I was like, I think there are three teams that can make the playoffs after, or can win the championship after that Gilbert trade, and I think with his performance, he's kind of proven me wrong a little bit. As you just got a Yorbid Vivas from a May Spotlight Week 4 pack. Congratulations!
Thank you. You're on top of this.
I get the notifications on my phone. I don't know why.
I don't know how to turn them off either.
I'm sure I could just turn my notifications from the app off if I really wanted to, but I think this is more fun. And then I can text you immediately when it happens. I think one time I had told you before you actually opened the pack.
Yes, that I think that was even like while we were recording too. I hadn't flipped the
Yeah.
card over yet.
I think it might be in the lost episode number 2. Uh yeah, Jesus. Crazy. Um Anything else on Ruthvik and your matchup?
Not let's move on.
I have exactly one more thing I want to say. I think it is hilarious that we were talking about Max Muncy, Sonny Gray, and Bailey Ober all prominently. And those were two of the 10 Sonny Gray trades like in the league history. Both of them happened last year. So, I mean, we truly cannot escape the Sonny Gray trades.
We cannot escape the Sonny Gray trades. We can't escape Sonny Gray. I would trade for him again in a heartbeat.
I Sonny Gray for Max Muncy. Let's do it again. You,
I
you wouldn't do that, obviously.
no, I don't know. I would probably do it. I don't know.
Let's talk off air. Uh,
I don't know. I might do it.
I'd be kind of funny if we did that again.
It would be kind of funny. I'd have to, yeah, it doesn't seem that lopsided to me.
Uh, uh,
We'll see.
well,
We'll talk.
let's see. Yeah, we'll talk. Um, which matchup do we want to talk about next? We've been
Um,
going pretty good today.
yeah, next let's talk about Andrew versus Yuki. Andrew finally got a win again, and Yuki is down to sixth place and on that bubble.
Yeah, it was an 8-3-1 win, so I don't think a stat correction is gonna fuck Andrew over this week. But it was a very great hitting week for Andrew. 22 doubles, 18 homers, 52 ribbies, 349 OBP, 58 runs, which that's not a record for him. I think it should be pretty close. He had kind of a quantity pitching week. So 4.32 ERA and a 123 whip on its face is not terrible. He had 81 Ks. He had one quality start out of 12. Two saves, two holds. So the Ks kind of did a lot for him there. And he tied holds. That helped. But I mean, it was really the hitting that carried his team this week. And I honestly think it's been a bit of a problem for him this year is and why he's been struggling so much. But yeah, Yuki, meanwhile, not a great hitting week. Mm, Better pitching week than Andrew and a lot of the categories, but definitely nothing spectacular. And yeah, he's fallen a bit.
Yeah, no, we'll see if he's able to keep it up and make the playoffs. Yeah, I agree. Andrew, fantastic week across the board. Good to see it from him after losing eight in a row or something like that. I mean, good week
Yeah.
from, well, uh, Nathaniel Lowe hit four homers and drove in seven runs despite a 286 on base percentage. Jake Myers had a 452 on base percentage and only had one double and no homers. So kind of reversed there. Good week for Ian Happ. Good week for matchup MVP is unless there's a pitcher I like more. Um, maybe there is. I mean, Ketel Marte, that's a tough week to beat. 520 on base percentage with eight runs, seven RBI, and five doubles. That's a matchup MVP if I've ever seen one. But shout out on the pitching. He had a great pitching week too, at least in terms of quantity. And Chris Bassett had two quality starts. Um, and um, Ryan Pepio made a good start as well.
Yeah, he had a little Pepione Stepio this week. I watched that start. Was not it was that one hurt. It was against the Orioles, but yeah, no, great week for Andrew. Nice to see him bounce back. Like I said, I think his team's better than it's played so far, and it's been kind of frustrating for him, I'm sure. But um, maybe he gets back into it. I think we kind of outlined a path last week. I'm not going to repeat it, but if not, I think he certainly has the talent to reload and compete again next year. One quick thing about Anthony's team I want to point out, or not Anthony, Yuki's team. Looks like Corbin Carroll's going to land on the IL with a hand injury. They said his concern is higher than it's been over the last couple of days, so we'll see what happens there, but not looking great for Corbin Carroll.
That's tough for Corbin Carroll, tough for Yuki. Who, with that in mind, do you think Yuki
Sure.
makes the playoffs?
Mm,
He is half a game ahead of Jake at the moment. Um,
I
and
I think he's been
he
playing a
is
little bit.
two
So
ahead
he,
of Ruth, or two ahead of Anthony, two and a half ahead of Andrew.
I don't think he does when it's all said and done. I think Jake is definitely a better team than him. Anthony is at least comparable. I think probably maybe a little bit better. And I think maybe if Andrew can kind of get back up there, like I think he is a better team than Yuki overall, and winning this week obviously helps. But um, yeah, that was a brutal. So like as annoying as it was for like Erik or I to lose, like neither of us really lost anything at the top of the standings as one, two, and three also lost or all lost. But Yuki is a six seed loss, but four, five, seven, eight, nine, and 10 all won. So that was like about as brutal of a week as he could have had. He's lost two straight now. So no, I think he's in some danger here. The teams behind him are looking a lot better.
Hmm. No, I agree. It's gonna be a good race for that six seed.
Yeah,
And I mean, who's to say I could be part of that race if I drop a couple? I'm only a game above the bubble.
yeah. Hey, you could lose to Conor this week,
It's happened
and
before. Teams losing to
hey,
Conor that shouldn't.
Conor had the back-to-back wins over what was it, Erik and EBO this season. He was like absolute garbage in like 18 or 19.
Yeah.
Just like that. Yeah, so back-to-back wins over me and you would be pretty wild. I do think it's pretty hilarious that I've blown you out twice this year, but my biggest
Hey, the
loss of the
first one
season
wasn't a
is to Conor.
blowout.
Okay, fine. I beat you twice this year, and my biggest loss, right? I barely lost to EBO. I barely lost to Erik. I lost 4-8 to Conor, and that was my biggest blowout of the year. And meanwhile, I beat you twice. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, you've
Almost beat
you've got a better record against me all time than against Conor.
I that genuinely baffles me. Granted, Conor had like a 2 year stretch here where he was pretty damn good, but still cracks me up.
Yeah.
So
Um,
some just have their kryptonite. Yeah, I'm Andrew's kryptonite. He's never beaten me.
yeah, that's insane. That's like yeah, like 12-0 or something against you. That's nuts.
Yeah.
Breaking, Anthony
Uh,
DeSclafani is pitching for the Diamondbacks right now.
Yeah, they sent him to Major League deal last week.
That's
I thought I
crazy.
put it in the chat, but evidently
You
not.
might have even if you did, that doesn't mean I saw it.
I send you like 100 chats a day. You probably read like 10 of them.
Yeah. All right, two matchups left. Why don't we talk about EBO just because they're they're a team that has had a couple of rough weeks in a row and they've been winning largely, but they've had some rough weeks in a row and they they had a good week this week and they perhaps wasted it on Alex and Zach.
Yeah, they broke their weekly home run record. They had 23, um, 60 runs, 19 doubles, 57 ribbies, 359 OBP. Not their best pitching week, but good bullpen week, 6 saves, 5 holds. It's actually funny because this matchup was like pretty close for a while. They were like tied, and I actually think Alex is winning for a hot second. But yeah, I mean EBO really pulled away at the end and just dominated. Pretty easy 9-3 win. Alex looked good the past couple weeks. He racked up a couple wins, but that streak ends.
Yeah, I think even on like Saturday or Sunday, Alex was winning.
Yeah,
But yeah, EBO really pulled away thanks to the hitting. Awesome week from Suarez, who is probably it's either Suarez or Riley Green. I think I have to give it to Riley Green.
I think
Yeah, Riley Green
Suarez
had
was the NL Player of the Week. If that changes your mind,
yeah, and the Reds could have him instead of Jamer Candelario still. Um,
as could the
no, well, Riley Green had a better week in the fantasy categories. I'm
fair
gonna
enough.
stick with that.
Yeah.
But great week from both of them. Uh, good week from Brian Reynolds when he was in their lineup. Another good week from PCA. Um, couple of Trent Grisham homers. Um, um, CJ Abrams had a good week. Um, just really firing on all cylinders this lineup.
Yeah, I'm scared as hell to play him this week. Although, as I say that, Eugenio Suarez did leave the game today after being hit in the hand. So,
Ooh,
yeah,
rough.
that's a rough one for them. But I mean, this is a lineup that's just on fire right now. So, Uh, yeah. And the pitching staff that just got Logan Gilbert. This is a damn good team.
ABO is gonna be a tough out.
They're going to be a very tough out unless injuries start to hit or somebody's bats go cold. Yeah, I think this might be the team that's playing the best right now.
I think so, and it was. I think to be fair, they had a couple week stretch that wasn't lighting the world on fire, but I'm not sure. I think would have been the only team to beat me this week. Let me look to see who would have. Let me take see actually. Um,
Jesus, Cal Raleigh just 30-second homer.
yeah, they would have beaten me 6-5-1 this week, so they would have been the only team to have beaten me there. They're hot. At least this week, and yeah, week 12 um they lost to Erik and didn't look very good. So you know, it's all just kind of every week's a new week.
Yeah, that's very fair.
Yeah. But yeah, no, this was certainly a good week for them. And as for Alex and Zach, we mentioned Alex is rostering a whole bunch of prospects on the Major League roster. They're trying to sort through them, and we've been saying this for a while, but it's still true. And he had Xavier Edwards looked good this week, and Junior Caminero had a good week. So it's little victories for this team.
No, I agree. I think he'll get there eventually. I don't know when he will, but I think he will.
hmm yeah. Anything else, or do we want to move on to our final matchup of the evening?
Yeah, let's see the final matchup. That was Jake v somebody, right? Jake v
Jake v. Daniel and Matt.
Yeah, Jake 193. Jake's been playing better recently. Uh, Let me pull it back up.
Yeah, pretty good week from Jake hitting wise. Pitching, he had the quant, not the rates. Daniel and Matt had the pitching rates and nothing really else across the board. It was a pretty comfortable win.
Yeah, I know Alex and Zach have the worst record, but I think Daniel and Matt might be if I did the power rankings again, I think they might be my number 12 team again. They just haven't looked good
Yeah,
early season hot stretch. I still can't believe they beat Erik this year.
that's crazy. Eric's lost to them and Anthony.
Yeah, insane. It does not make any sense to me. The Anthony one, yes. The Daniel Matt one still makes no sense to me. At least like Conor has like a couple of players, right? Like when I lost to him, who are like can just take over. Like Buxton and Raleigh have had really good years. He's got Jacob Wilson. Like I'm struggling, other than Mackenzie Gore, to see who that player is for Daniel and Matt right now.
Yeah, no, it's tough and like Jack Caglione could be could be a star. He's not doing very well since he reached the majors, but he could be a star. People seem to like him. Bryson Stott had a good week. Um, Ty France isn't had a good week, but he's not part of their future. Um, Clark Schmidt, made two quality starts. I liked what I saw from Clark Schmidt this week and this season.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, you just kind of um, we'll see. Yeah, this team it doesn't have the forward momentum that Alex's team has at the
Not
moment.
at all. Yeah.
No. But yeah, solid week for Jake. I liked what I saw from uh from Matt Olson. Um, I like what I saw from Hunter Goodman. Um, Matchup MVP though is clearly Acuna. He uh scored 11 runs and had a 593 on base percentage. But shout out to Jose Soriano who made a good start. Luis Castillo made a pretty good or he made a quality start, not a good start. Spencer Strider, we talked, we mentioned Spencer Strider was like a downside case for Logan Gilbert, but he's made two really strong starts in a row, so he's finding something here. That's very crucial for Jake.
Absolutely. I mean, getting Strider and Acuna back healthy, I think, was going to be the key for him. It was a big missing part last year, and I'm not saying he still needs maybe some more depth options, but I think he's done a lot to get this team. Or I think these two are, you know, really just getting them healthy has been huge for him, and it has raised his ceiling. So
Yeah, no, I certainly agree, and he has now moved up to 500, and like I mentioned earlier, half a game behind Yuki.
yeah, yeah, he's still very much in it.
Yeah. Yeah, very interested about that race for the sixth seed. Um, yeah, anything else here, or do we want to pick these matchups?
Let's do matchups to watch first. I mean, I think me versus EBO is a pretty obvious one. We had an insanely close matchup the last time. Came down to like I think what was that? I needed one more out from Andrew Heaney and like another strikeout, I think it was, to beat them. Instead, I lost 4-5-3. This is their first full week with Logan Gilbert, two start week from Tariq Skubal. Uh, you know, obviously my team is still the number one seed, coming off a loss from Conor that, I'd like to avenge. So this is going to be, I think, an insane week. But I also want to give a shout out to Andrew versus Anthony. Battle of two teams who are really trying to stay in that wild card hunt here, and or six seed hunt. I keep calling it a wild card. But whoever loses, I think, they're gonna have a really tough path to get back up. But also, shout out to Jake versus Ruthvik. I mean, Jake's team's looked a lot better recently. Ruthvik, despite losing, is coming off a pretty solid week, and I think it's a pretty big test for Jake. If he can win this one, I think he could really firmly plant himself in that playoff race. Whereas Ruthvik, I think, really needs this to keep up with the likes of me and Erik, who, despite his losses, like what 8-1 in it, or 8-1 in his last nine. So um, yeah,
Yeah. Um, no, a lot of interesting matchups. And here's hoping that mine is not one of the interesting matchups, despite the fact that it's 10:16 p.m. on Monday and I am losing to Connor.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
That's how it goes.
how it goes. Have you calculated the standings?
Nope. I
All right, well, let's get started picking. I think I will beat Connor, make a daring comeback. I think Eric will not lose twice to the Drury, and he won't tie either. I think now the rest of them get tricky. I think Yuki will beat Alex and Zach, but Yuki's so unpredictable week to week. I could see him losing this. I'm gonna pick Jake over Ruthvik. That'd be a little bit of an upset, um, um, but I think I kind of trust where Jake's team is at more than I do Ruthvik's. Um, I will take Andrew over Anthony. Things are coming together for Andrew, and I will pick you to beat EBO.
Interesting. All right. I'll pick you to beat Connor. He's not gonna catch lightning in a bottle twice. I'll pick Erik to beat Daniel. This could be a 12-0. I wouldn't be surprised. Um, I'm gonna pick Ruthvik to beat Jake. I just call it a hunch. I think Alex is gonna beat Yuki. I like the direction that I don't like Yuki's direction right now. That's really it. I think Anthony's gonna beat Andrew. I'm just kind of vibing with this team right now. He's coming off a big win against Erik. I think he'll beat uh Andrew. And then my matchup's tough. So it is a two-start week from Scooble. Um we do admittedly have a little bit of a knowledge of what went on today. And while Bailey Ober did suck, it was only he only gave up 7 hits in 7 innings, so it was this one whip. So really, only the ERA was kind of a killer. And I know about this injury now to Eugenio Suarez, but I'm still gonna pick a tie, or not a tie. I'm gonna pick EBO to win. I don't feel good about my team at all right now.
You could pick a tie. That would be fun.
Fuck it, I'll pick a tie. That would be fun.
Hey,
It feels like the cop out, but we haven't picked ties in a while. At least I have not. You used to pick one like
I
a week.
I used to pick him every week. I feel like I haven't been either. My tie of the week, if I was doing one, would be Alex and Zach versus Yuki. Um, maybe I'll pick that as a tie of the week. Why not?
That is tie written all over it.
That does.
Yeah. Also, you were so excited to pick these that you completely skipped me explaining who our results from last week.
Oh, um,
But
yeah.
so uh, we both picked me to beat Connor. We were wrong about that. We both picked Jake. We were right. We both picked Andrew. We were right. We both picked Eric. We were wrong. We both picked EBO. We were right. I picked you. You picked yourself. You were right. So you went 4-2, and I went 3-3.
All right. I will take those.
Yes.
But yeah, anything else here? We had another segment planned, but it's getting too late. Anything else planned here for the rest of week 13 into week 14?
No, I this is like the fifth or sixth week we said we're gonna do this segment. We haven't got around to it, but we will next week. We spent an extra long time talking about these matchups today, so I had a good time doing that at least in the trades. There's a lot to talk about, especially with us missing so many episodes this year. I think it was nice to dive in a little deeper than we usually would. But no, I got nothing else. Best of luck this week, Cam, for all the reasons, and we shall talk soon.
All right, talk soon.
Yep.
I can't quit you, babe. So I'm gonna put you down for a while. I said I can't quit you, babe. I guess I got to put you down for a while.
This podcast is good.